Tracy Litt, welcome to the Woman Owned podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pumped.
I'm so pumped to be with you here today, and especially because we're going to be taking a deep dive into something you do insanely well, which is build community and retain clients to really create long-term transformation. But before we get there, I want you to kick us off with your woman owned story.
First, I love this show and the name Woman Owned. Instantly, it's like my body responds in a really, really safe, beautiful, exciting way because you and I know that women are here to build this new world. And the one of the biggest contributions to that new world is more women-owned companies that are doing it the way that you do it, the way that I do it, and the way that you lead women to do it. So I want to say thank you before I start.
Thank you, Queen. I appreciate you.
So, like many of us, my soul was dying in corporate America, where the beginning of my woman-owned story is born. And it was one of those situations. I was the vice president of human resources at a huge elder care firm. I have an affinity for the elderly, and I thought I would satiate my need for contribution in this world by at least working in an industry that I loved. And I was sitting in that role, and they love me and I love them, and everything around me. I mean, working from home and making the six figures and all the things. And day by day by day, my soul was dying just a little bit more. And what I ultimately realized was it was because I was being called up to what I'm really here to do and contribute. And allowing myself to listen to that, right? Not dismiss it, not try to buffer against it, but say, wait a second, something's being communicated to me and I'm not here to settle. And I think that's a big part of being women owned, right? We're here because we're here to lead things. We're thirsty for legacy, for impact. We actually want to make a dent in this world before we leave our physical bodies. And I know you get that because that's who you are and one of the many reasons why we're so connected. So it took me about 2 years to finally make the leap, right? So at that point, I'm like, great, Trace, so you want to do something bigger, but what are you going to do? Where are you going? So I started researching, and I go down the wormhole of every type of service-driven, care-given, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, social work, spiritual MBA. I'm looking at all these things, and I find, for the first time ever, human growth and potential. And there's an industry for everything, but you don't know until you know. And it's as if, Eleanor, I climbed through this wormhole and I was like, what is this land? What is this place?
And was it like a website? Was it a blog? Was it an author?
It actually was a coaching school, like in my searches of all these different modalities and things, algorithms. Coaching school started popping. I'm like, what is this? What is coaching? What is human? What is Tony? What is what? Ha ha ha! And instantly, my body was like, this is it. This is the call. This is the call. Go go go! So I started researching, found an amazing coaching school, adult learning, 1-year program. Did nothing for 2 years. This is important. This is a very very big part. I know now what I didn't know then, which is why I did my TED Talk on it and why the underpinning of our work is all about fear and the biology of fear. What was happening to me in that moment was I was paralyzed because on Monday, I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm leaping. I'm leaving this job. I'm going back to school. I'm going to start a woman-owned business. Here we go. And on Tuesday, my mind was like, who the hell do you think you are? Sit back down. What if you suck? What if it's too much of a risk? And I sat for 2 years listening to what I now teach as the fear talk track. And that's what my talk track sounded like. And because I didn't know then what I know now, I believed that thinking and I sat back down. And then finally, on one of those gorgeous, quiet, dark nights of the soul, I hear my true higher self come through. You're not going to get out alive, and you have a gift for this world. And that catalyzed me to sign up for coaching school. 4 months later, manifested a layoff from my VP of HR job. Like, Eleanor, when I tell you, I was the happiest person on the planet to ever be laid off. My CEO calls me.
Oh
yeah, literally manifested. And I love this woman. She's woman-owned too. This whole firm I work for, woman-owned firm. She calls me. We're eliminating your department. And I was like, uh-huh. She's like, I don't think you're hearing me. I'm like, no. Got it. I'm good. I got a plan. And that was 2016, birthed the Litt Factor in 2017. And the Litt Factor has now become a parent company and birthed the School of Becoming September of last year. And here we are.
Oh, wow. I love that story. And I really, really appreciate manifested the layoff. I mean, only Tracy Litt would say that. Only you would say it that way, and it's perfect. Okay, so walk us through what the business looks like today. If you can kind of walk us through who are your sort of your core clients, what are the core offerings that you have so that people can really get context as we start to move into a discussion about retention, they can start to get a sense of how you've structured the business and kind of what some of the moving pieces are.
Yes. So the School of Becoming is our brand. And the School of Becoming is an institute for intentional evolution and consciousness that is designed for women leaders and entrepreneurs. So you know that to stand in the reality of what your dreams require, you have to evolve, you have to become different. And that's the work that you come and do inside of the school. And the way we set it up is like a school. So we have a gorgeous core curriculum, and you come in and you begin with mind magic, which is where you're evolving your identity, right? Because we do all of these different things and we know, like I believe in all of it. Our strategy is critically important, right? Our planning is critically important. And one of the things we're really stand for and working towards in the school is having the internal peace in tandem with is required. It is not something you wait on once X, Y, and Z doesn't work and you're hitting a wall. It's something that happens with while you're doing all these other things. So you come into the school and you begin as a mind magician.
So that's mind magic, and that core curriculum is like what does that look like? Is that like a 3 month type of program?
So it's a 9 week semester. So you come in for 9 weeks and you evolve your own identity at the level of your nervous system and your energetic system. You become different. This is where we reprogram your belief structure, rewire the way that your brain functions and your neural pathways, shift your relationship with fear. You finally understand, oh, I am actually more energy than I am matter. And this is how I work internally so that I can generate more without the hustle, the striving, the pressure, the burnout, right? It's like an eradication of all the paradigms that our great grandmothers, grandmothers, and mothers lived because we are the generation that's changing what is being dripped. And that's like the big, big underpinning, right? Yes, we're here for financial freedom. Yes, we are here to generate the wealth. Yes, we're here for the legacy. Yes, we're here for all the things. Have all the things. What are you actually doing? You are healing ancestors and descendants, and you are changing the world for the betterment of our kids and our kids' kids.
Amazing. So yeah, so really powerful 9 week introduction, to the work. Okay, got it.
Yes, and then after you have now gone through the semester and you've evolved your identity, you can choose to get certified in the work, which is incredible. And that means you become a certified neuroidentity evolution practitioner. And you now have the license. We give you the license to take the full methodology, the whole 9 weeks, and bring it forth into your companies, your teams, your business, your clients. And you're sitting on one of the best certifications in the industry, really comprehensive. Or you can choose, and because some of our women, they want to continue to work on their own embodiment, right? They're not interested in taking the work or getting certified. You can come into the House of Magic. And when you become a resident in the House of Magic, you're getting continuous coaching and community and meetups because you're really centered around your consistent embodiment and evolution of the woman you're becoming. So that's kind of the structure. Yeah.
Oh, really, really elegant. And so everybody comes into this core curriculum. So everybody has the same language, that same grounding. And from there, there's two streams. And it also sounds to me, it's not necessarily either or, that they could potentially become a practitioner and go the certification route, or they could go and continue working on themselves and developing their identity and evolving themselves in the House of Magic.
Yes, and lots of our women do that as well. So they'll do both, or they'll come into the house after they get certified. And I love that you pointed that out. And this is something we learned, when we were doing this program, and the school is new, but the IP has been something we've been delivering for 5 years. We realized that what was actually in highest service of the client, and this loops very much into retention and in a big way, highest service of the client does not always mean easiest for the business.
Say more about that. Say more about that.
Highest service of the client genuinely means you are functioning in the highest service of the client. And it might mean reorganizing, rethinking, adjusting how you are delivering or how you think about your offering, your product line. So, in a lot of ways, when we went, oh, wait a second, what's in the highest service of this woman is that Mind Magic is the prereq, right? Because putting her into certification without having that underpinning her own evolution, understanding why the methodology works 100% of the time, having her own lived experience, it's a disservice. So it might be, I could have someone argue, well, it's better for revenue if you just open certification to everyone without a prereq because then there's no barrier. But then I would say, are you here for the long game? Are you here for a meaningful, rich impact business? Or are you trying to make some money?
Now, when you think about that, and so this is an interesting differentiator. So, what I'm hearing you say is, as we created this certification, and I remember when you created this certification, I really do. And when you created the certification, there was the option to allow people to bypass investing in Mind Magic and come into the certification. And I mean, they would get it there, obviously, but you're like, no, we're going to make them experience it first as a participant, as a learner, and then go into the certification. Do you have a sense of, how much revenue you may have stepped over by doing what was best actually for the client versus just opening up certification? Like, do you have any?
Yeah, I would say because this year that we're in is the first year of this new prereq model. We started the prereq model, so we had the
That's even more. So you
oh, it's so
basically
juicy.
were
I'm
like,
right
you
here.
exactly what you have to lose. You're
I'm
like,
right here.
oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and this is so rich too because this is what the long game is, right? So, uh, in the fall, when we announced the school, we did it at the Consciousness Revolution Gala, and me and Marianne Williamson, she shared the stage with me. It was a stunning. I mean, like, please, what
Me
is
and
this?
Marion, me and
Me,
Marion. Come on.
Let's another
As
thing I manifested
Of
too. By the
course,
way,
of course.
I said
Yes.
I will have one person on this stage. If not, it's going to be me all night. And in the middle of her presidential campaign, and just side note, the media person I was working with, when I told her, I'm like, this is what I want. She was like, After we got her, she said to me, she goes, there was no world where that was happening. I was like, sure, Tracy. And I did the things you asked me to do. I was like, but she's like, but you really did that. I'm like, yes, I did. So we'll talk about that later. But so in the fall is when the prereq started. And I can tell you easily 300 to $500,000 eliminated because the certification is a higher level investment naturally, and not allowing women to come directly in because it's in their highest service. Sometimes we have to learn how to go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know this is what you're saying you want, but based on our integrity and what we know to be true about the depth of work we do, you are going to cut your nose to spite your face if you try to rush in here. So we're just going to take it off the table. And we're seeing the result. So we're seeing like when our certification students come to calls, they have virtually no questions because our certification process is so effective and they just went through it themselves. Their proficiency is faster, their understanding because of the change we made. No question.
Okay, that's so interesting. So sort of concept number one or underpinning of retention is to do what's in highest service of the client, even when it may be contrary to what is immediately seen as the best interest of the business, to the tune of a business turning away potentially anywhere from 300 to 500,000 in easy sales or assured sales of people who absolutely wanted to come to the certification, and redirecting them, actually putting up a bit of a barrier and saying, no, you've got to do this first. So that's really fascinating. And which, of course, begs the question. So that was a risk. And I just love it when women leaders take on some ballsy moves or ovarian rich moves. You know what I mean? Right. Question then, in doing that, what were your fears and how did you navigate those?
Well, I'm a fear expert, so
That's what I was
I'm
thinking.
really good at this game. Um, The universe, God, insert whatever word feels delicious for you, please. Okay?
Hmm.
The universe is always taking care of me. It is
Mm.
completely my safety net. I am bequeathing upon you the things that I know, like I know, like I know, which is even deeper than belief. I know the universe is going to deliver. I know when I stand in integrity, even when it feels third dimensionally risky, like in terms of consciousness, I have nothing to be concerned about. The work that we do in this world is so good. It's so life giving. There's no world where it's not going to be supported. So I don't play in that fear-based space. And when my mind offers me, as it does because that's its job, I pause. What do I do? Like, actually, so you can do it? I put my hand on my heart. I close my eyes. I take a few deep breaths. I remember that no one's getting out alive, that none of this is real, that my thoughts that come by default come from fear and ego and past experience. And I don't tolerate that level of thinking. I don't believe my thoughts anymore. That's what I learned in that 2 year paralyzation leaping from corporate to women owned world. This thing in between your ears is the most spectacular mechanism we will ever have. It's the asset. So you need to direct it, and it need not play a role in your day to day unless you are being intentional with it. You use your body, you use your energy, your highest self, your understanding of something bigger than you. You know when you go to Disney and they say, "Please take small children by the hand. Please do not leave small children unattended." That's how I think about thoughts. Don't leave your thoughts unattended. Okay? Just don't. Know that when you are women owned, it inherently means you are embarking on things you've never experienced before. You don't have evidence for inside of your brain or your body. You are living in the land of unknown and unfamiliar because the only way to do anything worthwhile is to play in the unknown. Therefore, your mind is going to offer you some shit. And it is your responsibility to become a woman who doesn't believe anything she thinks.
Powerful. So this and I love you walking through this because I think it really sets up a very an alternative countercultural way of making decisions in business and evaluating inputs, and are they actual inputs or are they historical records that are no longer meaningful. So walk us through like this decision, walk us through the impact. So one obviously is putting the client at highest good. Has there, and putting and holding that higher than even the business itself. So walk us through, are there other pillars of retention or things that, when you think about your retention strategy, so that sort of fundamental principle, have there been other pieces that have been key? We're going to get to the results of the retention, like what that looks like for you guys, but like what is another building block of your retention approach?
Yes, I love this, and I want to add one quickie thing about highest service. I want to give another example because this is like one of those. Oh my God, really? But you really got to do it. Um, Not allowing a client to renew or exiting a client from a program that is not in highest service of them. We have done this because number one, it's not in highest service of that person if they're spinning or they're not getting the traction, right? And from a retention standpoint of the whole community, because I want to talk about that next, if you allow anything that is misaligned, potentially toxic, you put a cancer inside of your entire community, all your clients, right? And we cannot be available for that. When women are investing with us, they are trusting us with their most important asset, which is them. And you don't get to make sales or money more important than that. So I need to say that. Now, what are the other pillars? Uh, Retention is not about retention. This is big. So whatever we focus on, if we're saying we want better retention, then what we're communicating physically and energetically is that we have an absence of solid retention. What we want to look at is what are the things that drive retention inherently? And the answer to that is client experience. So when we focus on retention, so now like as we hang, so now we're talking about the outcome and the result is retention, but what do we do?
But that's like the lag indicator.
Yes,
The lag indicator.
1,000%. The lag indicator,
Yes.
yes, is retention. The daily tactical initiatives are client experience. And the place where that actually starts is your regulation.
Ooh, say more. I love this because you can control that.
Uh-huh. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Client experience is a felt sense. And when you're taking responsibility for your regulation, what do I mean by that? Your inner environment, your groundedness, right? When you are frenetic, dysregulated, pressurized, attached, concerned, chasey, etc., your energy doesn't lie. And that becomes something that permeates everything that happens. And it is something that your clients absolutely experience because co regulation and co resonance is a thing. Yes. So co regulation is when your nervous system is co regulating and entraining those that are around you. And this is, yes, even on Zoom, even more so in person, but yes, even on Zoom. And co resonance is how your energy entrains other people's energy. So when you show up and you prioritize, this is part of what I was saying before about coming and doing this gorgeous internal work is not luxurious and it's not an afterthought. It's an imperative for your success. So when you learn how to re-imprint your nervous system and give it that love, and you can recognize when your system, it happened to me yesterday, I was sitting and doing some work and all of a sudden I felt my body go tighter, contract, 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 contract. I was like, oh my God, Trace, you haven't taken a breath in probably like 3 minutes. What's up with that, right? Because you have to have a great non-judgmental observer by your side, which is you, right? So imagine if you're showing up that way and you're in that, we'll just call it constriction versus open and expanded. That means you're dysregulated. So not only does that cut you off from your prefrontal cortex, from great innovation and creativity and all the luscious things you're after, but it's also felt by your clients. And one of the things that's really important, because we all, as human beings in 2024, have trauma, it's a very neutral thing. Um, and that means that our brains are prediction machines and our bodies are always sensing things. So the safer your client can feel, the better their experience as a client becomes. And that safety and feeling seen and heard and held comes from your ability to be a conscious, regulated leader.
Hmm. What would be a practice that you adopt? I know there's many, and I mean, in many ways, this is what you do inside Mind Magic and your work. But what would be a practical example of something that you do to be that regulated leader so that you can hold a container in which there's a really superior, safe client experience?
So I will zero in on like just two main things because there's all so many. The first one is my commitment to my awareness of my body is mastery, right? Which is why I could describe what I was just saying to you that happened to me yesterday. I know what my body feels like expanded. It's what I spend the most of my hours of my day in. I know that's open, it's flowy, it's trusting, it's communicating trust, it's all these things. So your ability to build your awareness and understand the contrast. So when you're like you're chilling, you're trusting, you're like, yes, you're having one of those days in women-owned world where it's like the sky's parted and the sunshine is out and the rainbows are happening and everybody did their thing and my kids picked their shit up and life is great and my partner came in with flowers and what is this, right? You start to become a woman who is internally driven instead of externally dependent. And that requires your ability to notice when your body goes from chill and open to tight, 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 constrict, constrict. That awareness is part one. Then part two, which you're going to roll your eyes at me, everybody, but I love you. And I promise if you do this, dramatic things will change for you. I need you to breathe at the top of every hour and put beautiful alarms on your phone. This is something we start with when we do mind magic. And what happens is the alarm goes off. You make a nice, like, low sound, something yummy, not like your wake you up alarm. And you put something in like, breathe, you deserve the space, right? Some message. And when the alarm goes off, you pause and you breathe. That means turn away from the computer or close your eyes or step outside, put your hand on your heart, and do 3 to 5 rounds of deep breathing. Not even anything dramatic, just breathing in through your nose, filling up your belly and holding it, and exhaling. And the reason why that's important is so many of us are great at doing a meditation in the morning. And so many of us are great at even, doing a gratitude journal in the evening or some journaling. And where I see everyone needing support is, well, who are you being the 15 hours during the day when you're awake and actually creating your life?
During those non-bookended times.
Right. And that's what's actually generating your reality. And imagine if you're constricted all day and you're a woman-owned business, which is why you're here hanging out with us, how can you make conscious responses? No, you're default, you're reactive, you're edgy, you're not choosing yourself, you're not peeing, you're not eating your lunch. There's like all these things that we're like, wait a second, that's not cool, that's not acceptable. So when we can break up and interrupt the patterning of our nervous system, interrupt that very acute stress that you've been living under that you don't realize you consider normal, dramatic things happen, because what you're doing is you're essentially taking nervous system love regulation breaks all throughout the day, and it's magical.
Oh, I really appreciate how practical that is and incredibly doable. Okay, so we've talked about um, highest good of the client over highest good of the business. We've talked about, not that it's an either or, as we will get into shortly. We've talked about self-regulation. Is there another piece to this puzzle for you?
Yes. So many. So let me go here next. Everything either hurts your brand or helps your brand. Right? So when I was a VP of HR and I worked this type of stuff for, my teams then, I would say to the director of nursing, let's say, who is hiring a head of nursing in her nursing home, even if you're in the interview and 3 minutes in, she is not it. You carry out that interview beautifully and in integrity. You walk her out and say thank you for her time. You give her your business card and you let her know you'll be in touch and if she has any questions, because that nurse candidate is going to run into a PT later on in the day and they're going to say, hey, did you have an interview? Did you get the job? And they're going to say, it was such a beautiful experience. That's my point. We have to stop being so attached and so transactional. So I want everyone to recognize client experience also means every touch point, everything we do from the first moment they engage with you, and all of a sudden your company is now in their awareness. So every single part, I want you to think red carpet, elegance, surprise, delight, above and beyond, right? When we built the House of Magic, this is an example, I thought to myself, it's a house. This is amazing. And I figured out how to get keys, like actual keys, put on long, like bohemian style necklaces with the word magic imprinted in the key. And when you join the house, you get a physical key in the mailbox because you're a resident.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Right. So it's like that. And what's so fun, like even in your reaction, it's like, have fun. Client experience is fun. It's enjoyable. And allow yourself to realize, in the spirit of pillar 3, which is, everything helps or hurts. So be aware from the beginning to the end. Allow yourself to create. Don't look to your left or your right and be like, well, that's what so and so did, or that's even what my coach did. Just stop.
Don't be going and sending keys.
Right. Well, right. Yeah. Unless you have a house too, in which case it's a great idea. Run with it. Right. But think, like, putting yourself in the position of what you want to experience is also probably the biggest overarching how that I could share with you right now. Because when you think through Okay, so first they do this. Oh, and then they get an email on this, and then they get this in the mail. It's like you're walking yourself through as the client, and then you can very easy implement what you want to be experiencing.
Oh, that is so powerful. Really powerful. Okay, one more. I know you like really, and I was saying this when we were in the green room. So I was speaking at a mastermind in Mexico. You were there. We were chatting. We had the opportunity to brainstorm, and I was like, I definitely am going to get in Tracy's group because I really want to. Tracy's just a genius, and I've seen it in terms of building community, a place where people, a house where people feel they belong. So I do understand that this is actually very central. It's like a central foundational piece of the business. But what would be one other thing when you think of your own experience inside the Litt Factor, the parent company, when you think about something that has moved the needle most significantly in terms of retention, what's one more thing that you'd like to mention?
Oh, this is big. Feedback, 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 feedback. So you can do surveys, right? You can make them anonymous or non. I like to give it option because some people want, this was me, and some people want the safety of not. Great. Feedback forums where you invite a collection. We just did this with certification at the end of last year. Said, I'm holding a feedback forum. I don't want to go survey style on this. I want to get on a Zoom with all of you, and I want to listen. And we gave an array of what you love, what you wish was different, what you never want to see again, what are your genuine improvements, what's the thing you want to give as feedback, but you're afraid to give it as feedback.
That's a really good question. Come on.
Yes, because everyone does such a great job of telling us how great we are, and thank you. I want to hear the things that you feel afraid to say, because that's where the juice is.
And I think this is what holds people back from asking for testimonials. This is what it holds people back for asking much less feedback, is they're afraid of what they'll hear. So my question for you is, how do you work with that? Because I think it's a very human thing. How have you worked with yourself, maybe your team?
The truest answer is the work that we deliver at the school is the work that I did on myself to become who I am. So the answer, the true transformational answer, is you come into the school and you evolve your identity to become a woman who stops internalizing. Because what happens if you are listening and you are struggling with what Eleanor just beautifully articulated, then it tells me you are still functioning from your unworthy identity in certain places and spaces in your lived experience. And the truth about you is that you're inherently whole. You are inherently worthy. It is not fluffy nonsense. It is the truth. And when you can operate from your wholeness identity, you no longer see feedback as criticism, because you no longer allow the last good or bad thing that you heard to make it mean anything about you. You have stopped the really unhealthy, detrimental habit of self-internalization, where when someone says, example, I did a big, beautiful gig at Ryder Trucking Company for 500 of their high potential women, 7 weeks. It was magical. Sent out a survey, got like 300 responses back. Let's say 250 of them were like, oh my God, amazing. And I was like, that's so great and I love it. And let me look at the other ones. I don't like her voice and I never want to learn from her again. Drinking out of her smart water bottle was disruptive and annoying. Why does she need to drink, or can she use a straw? She had no idea what she was talking about. I mean, just really straight up. Okay, great, 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 great. And the first thing when you're reviewing something like that, you take a few deep breaths and you remind yourself, this is not about me. Everyone is living in the projection of their own perspective and identity. And I am here to do something really meaningful in my women-owned business. And the only way to achieve that is to hear the things that are regarding betterment, enhancements, improvements, and growth. And how are we supposed to do that if we are not operating from our wholeness so that we can receive the feedback, and instead of filtering it through your old unworthy identity of criticism, it doesn't even occur to me anymore. It's not even in my purview. It's like, come on, bring it to me, because, oh my God, no, tell me more. Oh, great. And more, and not rebuttal, not need to respond. Just sit and hear. And that's also what makes the internal work non negotiable because it's not like, okay, let me give you a two-step formula to stop internalizing. That's not real. There's healing that has to go on here.
Oh, so juicy. Okay. So we've got feedback. And what I love about this is like, it's not just the feedback, but it's the work underside and underneath the feedback, to be a person who can hear it, who can ask for it, who can be hungry for it, and who can then filter it through their highest self, not through their unworthy self. So we've got that ability to regulate yourself, the ability to center client experience by putting yourself in that seat and asking, what would you want? And then the first one, and centering the client outcome and the client highest service to the client above the business, which is very, very cool. Okay. So when we think about the collection of these pillars, plus an array of other things that you do, walk us through what retention has looked like inside your world.
Our retention is so above and beyond outrageous. I'll say two things about it. Number one, it is what empowered us to cross over the seven-figure mark. I didn't even know it happened. My CPA college like, oh, guess what? You guys are $1 million company. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go back to work now. That's awesome. Um, and it was on retention. It wasn't on new acquisition. It was really so. So we became in the 1% of women owned because we understood the value of loving our clients. And it was like doing it before it was intentional because like I said, it's an honor when someone invests with your company. Right? And on the other side of every single beautiful woman investing, that is a woman whose life is now going to be impacted by their trust in your service, your company's offering, your product. And that's something that's really cool and something that I believe is a sacred thing. So, hold on, my brain just went in two places. What was I just saying? Oh, yes, yes, yes. So that is a tangible, right, financial outcome. Amazing. And our retention has been so amazing that we have women that there's nothing else. There's nothing else even for me to create at this point. They have been so incredible and so served by the work and so passionate about its efficacy that they have come through. Remember when you and I talked about the elevation experience years ago? We just worked on it, right? They came through elevation experience and then they came through mind magic and then they came through certification and then they come to powerhouse 5 years in a row. And then we get your retention's amazing when you're looking around and going, oh my God, I have nothing else right now. There's nowhere else to go other than continue to stay, which is great. And they do that in the house.
Through the membership. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, wow.
So a really powerful growth strategy is to increase the frequency of purchase, like the number of times. What's really interesting is that you are accomplishing that even though you will consciously not allow people to buy things in the order that they want to, because it's actually highest good to buy them to invest in the order in which it was intended. Now, like, question for you, do you have any sense of like an average customer, how many times they've purchased from you?
I would say in our highest retention, six, six. And that would vary based on how many live events they would come to each year. Because Powerhouse, that's another thing, live events, which is still within everything, but it's the love of my life. Live in-person events is the love of my life in this business.
Oh yeah, and she'll be barefoot the entire time, just so you know.
And side note, I heard my sister went to a Natalie Merchant concert last month and she texted me. She goes, Natalie Merchant sings on stage without her shoes on. I'm just saying, maybe she got that from you. I don't know.
Exactly. Maybe she's been taking the mind magic also.
That's correct. You never know. You never know. So I would say six. And again, it depends. We did Powerhouse 5 years straight. And we never advertised it because it would fill 80% at the end of the previous Powerhouse for a year later.
Really, really powerful. This is what I love about this case study is how your tactics and strategies are embedded in your values. And I think that is actually, my big takeaway from this conversation, because what that does is to circle back to the idea of the brand, which is one of the things I missed when I was doing my recap, that it, your brand starts to stand for something incredibly solid and trustworthy when all of your strategies are embedded in values, and it becomes a place that people want to come home to. So it's been I so appreciate you like walking us through, here's how the business is set up. Growth has come primarily through retention. Here's what we do to drive retention. And unlike a very tactical, there's definitely some tactical stuff in here, but it's really about an approach, a philosophy that's grounded in values. And I think it feels very substantial. It feels very inspiring, and it feels like a woman-owned way of doing business.
Thank you. I really received that because it is. It really, really is. And when you say that, I've had, people come in or contractors or marketing person and they'll say certain things like, yeah, no. Right. Or I remember we had a beautiful marketing manager with us once and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to etch a sketch you out of all things that you're saying to me right now. That is not how we do it. And it's what you're saying is beautiful. It is aligned with our values and it is the way that women build. It's the way that women are meant to build.
Very cool. Okay, so we could go on and talk chit chat forever, and we have in the past. But I would love to, where should people go? We'll definitely put everything into the show notes. But where's the number one place that you would have folks who are new to you and your work? Where should they go first?
Go to theschoolofbecoming.com and you will see right there on the top, take the assessment. It is a gorgeous free assessment. It's the Ascension Assessment. 11 fun questions because levity is also a high value of our organization. And you will receive a result page that will show you where you are in your growth journey. You will break down consciousness and all of the things that we were talking about. And it's just an amazing place to start. And that opens you to the library where there is free articles, blogs, podcasts. You could just live in the library and gain a ton.
Amazing. Theschoolofbecoming.com.
Yes.
Tracy Litt, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I adore you and I'm so grateful.